Episode 1, The Sixth Bond. The clang of steel rang through the training grounds, echoing off the stone walls as Lucianne disarmed her opponent with a swift twist of her blade. Dust rose around them, sunlight glinting off the edge of her weapon as the wolf she sparred with dropped to one knee, panting. A murmur of admiration rippled through the watching pack members. Lucianne was small compared to most warriors, but her strikes were quick, precise, and relentless. Gamma-born, commander-trained, she was never one to yield. She offered her sparring partner a hand, pulling him to his feet before the crowd could mistake her victory for cruelty. "You've improved," she said quietly, her voice steady though her heart was racing. It wasn't the fight that unsettled her. It was the weight pressing against her chest all morning, a weight she had prayed would never return. The weight of a bond. By nightfall, she could no longer ignore it. The moon hung heavy above the forest, its silver glow spilling over the clearing where Lucianne knelt, alone. Her chest tightened with every breath as though invisible chains wrapped around her ribs. The familiar pull, warm, suffocating, undeniable, spread through her veins. "No," she whispered to the heavens, tears stinging her eyes. "Please, no. Not again." 5 times she had felt this before. 5 times she had stood before her supposed mate with trembling hope, only to hear the same words spill from their lips. "You're not the one I wanted. I reject you. You're too much. Too strong. Too different." Each rejection had left scars no battle could match. She had begged the moon goddess after the last one, pleaded with all the pieces of her broken heart, no more. No more bonds. Spare me this torment. But the goddess was silent. Until now. The bond tightened. Her wolf howled within her, restless, eager, betraying the part of her that wanted only to be free. Lucianne's fingers dug into the soil. "Spare me," she whispered again, her voice breaking. "I cannot survive a sixth." The wind shifted. A scent hit her, earth and rain, strength and fire woven together in a way that made her heart stumble. Her wolf whined, recognizing what she already feared. Her sixth mate was here. He emerged from the tree lean like the night itself had shaped him. Tall, broad-shouldered, every movement radiating command. His eyes burned a shade of amethyst rare among Lycans, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The Lycan King Xandar. Her heart lurched. Of all the wolves, of all the bonds fate could forge, it had chosen him, the most powerful creature alive, ruler of every pack, every Lycan, every whispered law. The world seemed to bow to him as he crossed the clearing, but his gaze was fixed only on her. And when his eyes met hers, his lips parted, reverent. "The goddess has finally answered me," he breathed, voice thick with awe. Lucianne's chest tightened. Answered him. His stride quickened, his hand reaching for hers with a hunger he didn't bother to hide. "You're mine." She jerked back as though struck. "No." Confusion flickered across his face, then faded beneath a slow, radiant smile. "You feel it too. Don't deny it. Don't tell me what I feel," she snapped, her voice sharp with panic. "I've felt it 5 times before. And do you know what happened? Rejection. Every time. I will not walk that path again." His brow furrowed. "They were fools. Every one of them." His voice deepened, threaded with something dangerous and unyielding. "I am not them. You will be." The words scraped her throat raw. "Sooner or later, you'll look at me and see the same thing they did. Too much. Not enough. Wrong in every way that matters. And you'll cast me aside, just like they did." For the first time, the king's certainty faltered. His eyes softened, searching her face. "Lucianne," he murmured, her name tasting foreign and sacred on his tongue. "You think I would ever let you go?" Her laugh was hollow, bitter. All of them said the same. The bond pulsed between them, alive, insistent. Her wolf clawed at her insides, desperate to close the distance. She hated it. Hated the way her body betrayed her resolve. Xandar stepped closer, slow enough to keep from spooking her, but every inch of him radiated possession. I am the Lycan king. I have led armies, crushed enemies, ruled with a hand that did not falter. And yet, he stopped, his voice breaking in a way that startled her. I have never feared anything more than losing this. Losing you. Lucianne swallowed hard. His sincerity shook her more than any threat could. But fear anchored her heart. Then you should prepare yourself, she whispered, backing away into the shadows. Because rejection is all I have left to give. By dawn, the palace knew. Word spread like wildfire, the king had found his mate. The court erupted in chaos. Some cheered, some whispered of scandal. A Gamma-born she-wolf as queen. Impossible. Dangerous. Beneath him. Lucianne kept her head low as she entered the great hall, summoned by decree. Eyes pierced her from every side, jealous she-wolves with hungry smiles, suspicious lords with narrowed eyes, and a sea of whispers that dripped poison. At the far end, on a throne carved of obsidian, Xandar sat with his gaze fixed only on her. Come, he commanded softly. Not to the court. To her. Her hands trembled at her sides, every instinct screaming to flee. Instead, she met his gaze with fire of her own. I won't play your game. His smile curved, slow and dangerous, as though her defiance only fed the hunger in his eyes. It isn't a game, little wolf. It's fate. And I intend to claim it. Episode 2, A Reluctant Luna. The great hall glittered with gold and obsidian, chandeliers dripping with crystal light. Courtiers filled the air with laughter and murmurs, silk gowns sweeping the polished marble floors. The banquet was meant to celebrate the kingdom's victories, but tonight no one cared about war or borders. Tonight, every pair of eyes was trained on one thing, her. Lucianne stood at the edge of the hall, trying to disappear into the shadow of a pillar. Her plain black dress, chosen deliberately to avoid attention, only seemed to make her stand out amidst the jeweled nobility. She felt the weight of 100 stares. Curious. Disbelieving. Scornful. The king had summoned her here. She should have refused. She should have fled into the night and never looked back. Yet the command of a king, and the unyielding pull of the bond, had left her little choice. At the far end of the room, on a raised dais, Xandar's throne loomed. He rose to his feet, and the hall fell instantly silent. My people, he began, voice ringing like a blade drawn from its sheath. Tonight, I share with you the greatest gift the goddess has ever granted me. His gaze found her across the hall. A smile curved his lips, dangerous and tender all at once. My mate, he declared, extending a hand toward her. Lucianne. A ripple of gasps and whispers surged through the crowd. She's only a gamma. Impossible. A disgrace to the crown. Lucianne's throat tightened. Her body screamed at her to move, to walk forward, to place her hand in his. The bond pulled at her like a chain around her neck. But her mind, her scarred, wary heart, dug its heels in. She did not move. The silence stretched, sharp as knives. Then a voice cut through the tension, dripping with venom. Your Majesty, purred Lady Cressida, a high-born Lycan noble draped in crimson silk, her beauty sharp as glass. Surely the goddess does not intend for a gamma blood to sit at your side. The title of queen demands strength, yes, but also refinement, breeding, lineage. Her smile widened as she gestured delicately at Lucianne. Qualities which she, clearly lacks. Laughter rippled among the courtiers, cruel and cutting. Lucianne felt the heat of humiliation rise in her cheeks. She clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms. Every instinct told her to bare her teeth, to strike, to prove she was not weak. But she held herself still, refusing to give them the satisfaction. Xandar descended the dais in 3 swift strides. The room seemed to shrink around him as he stopped before Lady Cressida. His voice was soft, almost gentle, yet it carried the weight of thunder. "Careful," he said, eyes flashing. "The next insult you speak of my mate will be your last." The laughter died instantly. Cressida's face paled, her mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. She dropped into a low curtsy, trembling. "Yes, your majesty," she whispered. Satisfied, Xandar turned back to Lucianne. His hand extended once more. "Come." Every eye in the room followed her, expectant, hungry for drama. Lucianne's heart pounded. If she refused again, she would shame him in front of his court. If she obeyed, she would chain herself deeper to a bond she did not want. Slowly, with lead in her veins, she stepped forward. The murmurs swelled as she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm, possessive. A current of power surged through the bond, making her wolf whimper with reluctant pleasure. Xandar lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "My Luna," he declared to the court. The hall erupted, some in cheers, others in outrage. Lucianne stood frozen, her hand trapped in his grasp, her heart screaming in silent protest. The feast resumed, though the air buzzed with tension. Courtiers approached the king with shallow congratulations, their smiles brittle, their eyes darting toward Lucianne with thinly veiled disdain. She endured their stares, their whispers, their false pleasantries, all while Xandar kept her close at his side. His presence was both shield and shackle. At one point, he leaned close, his breath brushing her ear. "Ignore them," he murmured. "They do not matter. Only you do." Her jaw tightened. "That's easy for you to say. You aren't the one being measured and mocked like livestock." His eyes flickered with pain, but his grip on her hand only tightened. "They will learn. I will make them respect you." Lucianne swallowed hard. Respect was one thing. Acceptance, love, was another. And no amount of royal decree could force it. Later, when the crowd thinned and the wine dulled the edges of conversation, she slipped out into the moonlit balcony. The night air was cool, the silence a balm after the suffocating hall. She gripped the railing, her chest heaving. Her wolf purred in contentment, basking in the bond. But her heart felt like a cage. Behind her, footsteps approached. "You ran," Xandar said softly. She turned, bristling. "I needed air." He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stepped closer, his voice dropping to a plea. "Why do you fight this?" Her throat tightened. "Because I know how it ends." "Not with me." His hand brushed her cheek, gentle, reverent. "I am not them." For a heartbeat, she wanted to believe him. Wanted to surrender to the warmth in his eyes. But then she remembered the hollow echo of rejection, the way it gutted her each time. She stepped back, breaking his touch. "You will be." Pain shadowed his face, but he said nothing more. As the moon climbed higher, Lucianne stared into the distance, her mind already whispering the only way she could protect herself: leave. Escape before it's too late. And deep in her chest, her wolf howled in protest. Episode 3, Chains of the Past. Lucianne's chamber in the royal palace was suffocating. The silken sheets, the velvet drapes, the golden mirrors, they all mocked her. This wasn't her home. This wasn't her life. She belonged to the forests, to her gamma post, to the sweat and dust of training yards. Not to gilded cages. She sat on the edge of the massive bed, her body trembling. Every time she closed her eyes, the night replayed in cruel fragments, Xandar's hand clutching hers before the court, the kiss he pressed against her knuckles, the word that rang in her ears like a curse, Luna. Her wolf stirred inside, restless, aching to accept the bond. But her heart recoiled. She wrapped her arms around herself, whispering into the empty room. No. Not again. Not this time. The memories came unbidden, as sharp as the day they were carved into her soul. First rejection. She was 16, trembling with excitement when the bond clicked in her chest for the first time. Her mate, a beta heir, looked at her with horror. A gamma. No. I will not lower myself. His rejection sliced through her like fire. She bled for weeks, her wolf howling in despair. Second rejection. A year later. A warrior from another pack. He touched her face with reverence when the bond snapped into place. For one glorious night, she thought she'd found love. By dawn, he was gone. A note left on her bedside, "You're too strong. I need someone softer." Third rejection. Her own commander. She had trained beneath him for years, admired his strength. When their bond formed, she dared to hope. But he sneered, whispering so others wouldn't hear, "You'll never be enough. Not for me." Fourth rejection. A visiting alpha's son. The moon goddess tied them, and for weeks she endured his mocking flirtations. Then, in front of his entire pack, he laughed and severed the bond. "I'd rather die than bind myself to you." The public humiliation nearly broke her. Fifth rejection. The worst. A friend. Someone she trusted. When the bond snapped, his eyes widened, not with joy, but with rage. "This can't be right. You're cursed. I will not be trapped with you." He spat at her feet. Rejected her. Walked away. By then, her wolf was silent. Her heart, a graveyard. And she had prayed, begged, the goddess to spare her another bond. Yet here she was. Tied to the most powerful being alive. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her hands against her temples as if she could squeeze the memories out. Her chest heaved with the phantom pain of 5 broken bonds. She could still hear their voices, still feel the shame crawling over her skin. A knock at the door jolted her. "Lucianne." Xandar's voice, deep and steady, filtered through the wood. "Please. Let me in." Her body betrayed her, leaning toward the sound of him. The bond tugged like a chain. But she bit her lip until it bled, forcing herself back. "I can't," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Go away." Silence stretched, heavy. Then his voice, raw, "I'm not them." The words pierced her, but she clenched her jaw, refusing to answer. Eventually, his footsteps receded, leaving her in the silence of her own ghosts. She drifted into restless sleep, and the dream came. She stood in a meadow bathed in silver light. The moon hung enormous above her, glowing like a living heartbeat. From the shadows, a woman emerged. Hair of starlight, eyes of galaxies. The moon goddess. Lucianne dropped to her knees. "Why?" Her voice cracked, desperate. "Why would you curse me with this bond? 5 times I was shattered. Why him? Why now?" The goddess reached down, touching her chin with gentle fingers. "Because, child," she whispered, "your heart was forged in fire. And only fire can temper a king." Lucianne shook her head, tears streaming. "I can't bear another rejection. Please, release me." The goddess's eyes softened. It is not for me to release you. The choice will always be yours. The meadow dissolved, leaving Lucianne gasping awake, drenched in sweat. The words echoed in her skull. The choice will always be yours. But as she lay in the dark, her chest ached with the bond's pull, her wolf howling for the mate she refused to accept. And somewhere deep down, beneath the layers of scars and fear, a small, traitorous part of her wondered if this bond was different. Episode 4, The King's Desperation. The morning sun streamed through stained glass windows of the royal council chamber, scattering prisms of light across polished marble. King Xandar sat upon his throne at the head of the long table, his shoulders squared, his face carved from stone. Yet beneath the regal mask, his thoughts churned like a storm. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard her broken whisper through the door, "Go away." He replayed it again and again, searching for the words that could have changed her answer. This was new to him. In war, in politics, in ruling, he was decisive, unyielding. But with her, he faltered. His crown meant nothing if he couldn't win the heart of the one woman the goddess had chosen for him. "Your Majesty." The voice of Lord Darius, his prime counselor, pulled him back to the present. The council chamber was filled with Lycans and high-ranking alphas, their eyes keen, their mouths sharpened into polite smiles. "We cannot ignore the matter of your mate," Darius said delicately. "The court whispers already. A Gamma blood Luna is unprecedented." Murmurs followed. Some voices tinged with disdain, others with curiosity. Unstable bloodline. The goddess must have erred. A king should not lower himself. Xandar's jaw tightened. Power rolled off him like a tide, silencing the room. "The goddess does not err," he growled. "Lucianne is my mate. And if the court values their lives, they will treat her with the respect owed to their queen." The chamber went silent, cowed by the force of his command. Yet Xandar saw the flicker of doubt in their eyes. He dismissed the council shortly after, his patience frayed. As they filed out, Lady Cressida lingered, her crimson gown sweeping the floor like spilled wine. She curtsied, her smile saccharine. "My king, the throne demands a Luna who can match its power. A Gamma is beneath you. Let me serve you instead." Before she could rise, his power lashed out, knocking her to her knees. "You mistake me, Lady Cressida," he said, voice like ice. "There is no throne without her." Her face blanched. She fled. That night, Xandar stood outside Lucianne's chamber door once more, his pride left behind with the discarded cloak at his feet. "Lucianne," he murmured, his voice low, stripped of its usual command. "Please, let me in." Silence. Then, after a long pause, the door creaked open. Lucianne stood there, eyes shadowed from restless dreams, her body tense. "Why can't you leave me be?" she whispered. He stepped inside, careful not to close the door behind him. He wanted her to know she wasn't trapped. "I've fought wars," he said softly, "and I've won kingdoms. But I don't know how to fight this." "How to fight you?" His voice cracked, raw and human. "Tell me what I must do. Just, don't shut me out." Lucianne's breath hitched. His desperation was unexpected, almost painful to witness. This was the Lycan king, the most powerful creature alive, pleading like a man stripped bare. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to shake her head. "You don't understand. You can't understand. Every bond before you ended in ruin. You say you're different, but so did they. And each time, I was left shattered." His hand hovered near hers, trembling, though he didn't touch. "Then let me prove it. Not with words. With time. With actions. I swear, Lucianne. Even if it takes a lifetime." Her wolf whimpered, longing to believe. But Lucianne hardened herself, drawing her hand back. "You won't last," she whispered. For a long moment, the only sound was his ragged breathing. Finally, he bowed his head, a king humbled. "Then I will pray," he murmured, "that you're wrong." Later, when he left her chamber, a shadow stirred in the corridor. Hidden behind marble columns, a figure watched the king depart. The glint of steel, the faint scent of wolfsbane clung to their cloak. "Gamma blood for a queen," the stranger hissed under their breath. The goddess must be defied. Their eyes narrowed. And if the king won't reject her, perhaps she must be removed. Episode 5, Shadows of Jealousy. The palace, with all its marble corridors and golden ceilings, was nothing more than a serpent's nest to Lucianne. Everywhere she turned, whispers slithered behind her back, hissing words she pretended not to hear. Gamma blood. Not fit for a queen. She tricked the goddess, no other way. She won't last. The king will see sense. Lucianne kept her chin high, her stride steady, though each syllable carved deeper into scars that had never fully healed. She had endured worse. She would not let them see her bleed. Still, when she returned to her chambers that night, the silence pressed in heavy. Her wolf whimpered, restless beneath her skin. "Why do they hate me so?" she thought. "Why must I always fight just to exist?" The next morning, the palace hosted a gathering of nobles. It was a glittering affair, jewels, silks, and wine flowing like rivers. Lucianne had no choice but to attend. She wore a simple gown of midnight blue, her hair braided neatly. She felt the weight of every stare as she entered the hall. At Xandar's side, she should have felt secure. His hand brushed against hers, protective, grounding. But the room was thick with jealousy. Lady Cressida was there, her crimson dress clinging like sin. She approached with a smile too sweet, bowing low before the king. "My lord," she purred, "you honor us with your presence. The court rejoices to see you so content." Her eyes flicked to Lucianne, gleaming with malice. "Though we do wonder how long such contentment will last." Lucianne stiffened, but before she could reply, Xandar's voice cut the air like a blade. "Careful, Lady Cressida. Jealousy stains you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lady Cressida's smile faltered, but she dipped her head and retreated, her eyes promising vengeance. Lucianne slipped away from the hall soon after, the noise too heavy on her chest. She found refuge in the palace gardens, where moonlight silvered the roses. "Lucianne." The voice startled her. She turned to find a familiar figure, Sebastian, her former training partner from the Gamma Corps. His dark eyes held warmth, the kind that pierced through years of pain. "I shouldn't be here," he said, stepping closer. "But when I heard, I had to see you. To make sure you're safe." Her breath caught. Memories of long night sparring, of laughter shared before her world collapsed, resurfaced like ghosts. "I'm fine," she said quickly, though her voice wavered. "You shouldn't have come." He smiled sadly. "You deserve better than this. Better than a king who cages you." Before she could answer, a growl shattered the night. Xandar stood at the edge of the garden, his amber eyes blazing with fury. His wolf was dangerously close to the surface, every muscle coiled with possessive rage. "Step away." His voice was low, lethal. Sebastian met his glare, refusing to bow. "She is not your possession, Xandar. If she wishes to leave, will you chain her?" Lucianne's heart thundered as the air crackled with the promise of violence. "Enough," she cried, stepping between them. "I will not be fought over like some prize." The silence that followed was thick, broken only by her ragged breaths. Xandar's gaze softened as it fell on her, but his voice trembled with something raw. "Then tell me, Lucianne, why does it hurt so much to watch another man stand where I cannot?" That night, Lucianne lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her chest ached with confusion. She didn't want to belong to anyone. Not again. Yet when Xandar's voice broke in the garden, when his desperation bled into the night, part of her had wanted to reach for him. And that terrified her more than all the jealous whispers combined. Episode 6, Blood and Betrayal. The palace no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a cage with cracks in its walls, and through those cracks slithered shadows that whispered of blood. Lucianne walked the corridor alone, the echo of her footsteps chasing her. She had left Xandar in the council chamber, locked in another battle with nobles who questioned her every breath. Gamma blood. Not fit. Not worthy. She should be numb by now, but the weight of their disdain was relentless. As she reached the eastern courtyard, a sharp whistle cut the air. Instinct screamed. She ducked, just as an arrow tipped with wolfsbane hissed past her head and embedded into the stone wall. Her wolf snarled within her. She spun, heart pounding. Shadows moved in the trees beyond the courtyard. Before she could react, steel flashed. A figure cloaked in black lunged, dagger raised. Lucianne's training surged back, she twisted aside, the blade grazing her arm. Pain burned through her flesh. She staggered, blood soaking her sleeve. The assassin raised the dagger again. And then the world exploded in amber fire. Xandar's roar split the night, shaking the very stones beneath their feet. He slammed into the attacker with the force of a storm, his Lycan form half unleashed, fangs bared, eyes molten with rage. The assassin's scream was short-lived. With one brutal strike, Xandar snapped the man's neck, tossing his body aside like broken glass. But there were more. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, bows drawn. Arrows whistled toward them. Xandar shoved Lucianne behind him, his body a shield. 2 arrows sank into his shoulder, another into his thigh. He didn't falter. With a savage snarl, he launched at the attackers. Claws tore, bones shattered, and the courtyard became a graveyard of broken men. By the time silence fell, the marble was streaked with blood. His blood. Their blood. Lucianne dropped to her knees beside him, hands trembling as she tried to pull the arrows free. "Stop," he growled, voice rough. "They're poisoned." Tears stung her eyes. "Then let me help you." But his hand shot out, gripping hers. His eyes burned into hers, not with pain, but with something far more dangerous. "No," he rasped. "You are safe. That's all that matters." Her heart twisted. He was bleeding, broken, yet his only concern was her. The sound of boots echoed in the courtyard. Guards rushed in, and with them, Sebastian. His eyes swept over the carnage, then locked on Lucianne's bloodied arm. Fury ignited within them. "You promised to protect her," he snapped at Xandar, voice edged with venom. "This is what your crown has done, made her a target." Lucianne flinched. "Sebastian, don't." But Sebastian's words struck deep, and for the first time, Xandar's face darkened not with rage, but with guilt. Sebastian's gaze softened as he turned to her, his hand brushing against hers. "You don't have to stay here, Lucy. Come with me. I can keep you safe, away from all this." The courtyard froze. Guards shifted uneasily, sensing the storm. Xandar's growl was low, lethal. "If you touch her again, I'll tear you apart." Sebastian didn't back down. "Then maybe she'll finally see who you really are, a tyrant who cages his mate instead of freeing her." Lucianne's breath came shallow, her heart a battlefield between 2 forces pulling her apart. Later, when the guards cleared the bodies and the night grew still, Lucianne found herself staring at her own reflection in a blood-streaked fountain. She whispered to the goddess, her voice raw. "Why give me another mate, if all it brings is blood? Why bind me again, if all I know is betrayal?" Her reflection wavered, distorted by ripples of crimson. And for the first time, she wondered if the sixth bond would be the one that finally destroyed her. Episode 7, Old Flames and Silent Protectors. The palace's great hall was alive with candlelight and music, but Lucianne felt the weight of eyes heavier than any melody. Tonight was meant to honor the visiting Lycans from the northern realm. But beneath the silver goblets and gilded laughter lurked something sharper: scrutiny. She was the king's bonded mate, and every noble waited for her to falter. Xandar, regal in his black attire trimmed with gold, stood by her side. His hand brushed hers whenever the whispers grew too loud, his presence a wall against their disdain. But then, the doors opened. And she walked in. Lady Helena. Her beauty was effortless, the kind that turned heads before she even spoke. Her gown shimmered like molten gold, her raven hair cascading in waves. But what stole Lucianne's breath wasn't her elegance, it was the way Xandar's eyes widened, just for a heartbeat, before he masked it beneath his usual stoicism. Whispers rippled. His old betrothed. They were promised once, before the goddess bound him anew. Perhaps fate erred. Lucianne's heart sank. Lady Helena glided toward them, curtsying with practiced grace. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice velvet. Then, turning her gaze on Lucianne, her smile sharpened. "And the gamma, mate." The word was dipped in disdain. Xandar's jaw clenched. "Helena. I did not expect you here." She laughed softly. "Surely you didn't think a bond would erase history, did you? We were to be wed once. Our families still speak of it." Her eyes flicked again to Lucianne, assessing, dismissing. But I see the goddess had other plans. Lucianne forced her chin high. Yes. She did. But inside, her wolf howled with unease. Later that evening, Lucianne escaped the suffocating hall, her breath fogging in the night air. The garden was her refuge, but tonight it felt less like sanctuary and more like exile. "Lucianne." The voice came from the shadows. Sebastian stepped forward, his expression taut with worry. "You shouldn't walk alone," he said. She gave a bitter smile. "I don't think I've ever been less alone. Every step I take, someone's watching, waiting for me to stumble." His gaze softened. "Let them watch. They don't know your strength." "I do." Her chest tightened. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" he pressed, stepping closer. "You think I don't see how he looks at her? How the court whispers about you? You deserve someone who stands with you, not someone whose past haunts every room you walk into." Lucianne looked away, heart pounding. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. But the image of Xandar's eyes lighting at Helena's entrance burned in her mind. Back in the palace, Xandar stood alone in his study. Helena had sought him out after the feast, speaking of old promises, of how different things might have been. "You cannot erase what we were," she had said, her hand lingering too long on his arm. He had pulled away, yet the truth gnawed at him. Once, he had thought marriage to Helena inevitable. Duty. Tradition. And though it had never been love, he couldn't deny the bond of shared history. Now that history threatened the fragile trust he was trying to build with Lucianne. That night, unable to sleep, Lucianne wandered the quiet halls. As she turned a corner, voices drifted from an antechamber. She froze. Helena's voice, low and sharp, "She won't last. Gamma blood is weak. And when she falls, the king will have no choice but to return to me." Another voice, unfamiliar and male, replied, "And if she doesn't fall on her own?" Helena's laugh was cold. "Then we make sure she does." Lucianne's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the wall, her mind racing. Betrayal. Again. Always betrayal. Her wolf growled within her. This wasn't just jealousy. This was conspiracy. And if she didn't tread carefully, the sixth bond would not only break her heart, it could cost her life. Episode 8, The Moon's Trial. The council chamber burned with torches, but the firelight did nothing to chase away the chill in Lucianne's veins. She stood at the center of the circle, every eye heavy on her. Nobles, Lycans, wolves, all gathered under the vaulted ceiling to witness what the priests had declared, a trial by the moon goddess herself. A test of worthiness. Lucianne's wolf growled inside her. She knew the truth. This wasn't divine will, it was the council's plot, Helena's poisoned whispers wrapped in holy language. Still, she could not refuse. To do so would be to admit weakness. And weakness meant rejection. Xandar's voice thundered, echoing off the walls. This is madness. He stood at the council's edge, his amber eyes blazing. She is my mate. The goddess has spoken. No trial, no priest, no scheming noble can undo what is divine. But the high priestess raised her hand. Her robes shimmered with lunar runes, her eyes pale with unyielding conviction. Even the goddess's bond must be proven, Your Majesty. If she is truly chosen, she will endure. If not, then she was never meant to stand beside the Lycan king. The words struck like a blade. Lucianne swallowed hard. Her palms were slick with sweat, but her gaze didn't waver. I will face the trial. Xandar spun to her, fury etched in every line of his body. No. Lucy, don't. She lifted her chin, silencing him. If I don't, they will never stop. Let me prove myself. Their eyes met, a storm between them. At last, Xandar's shoulders sagged. His hands clenched into fists. Then I'll be beside you. Always. The trial began at moonrise. Lucianne was led into the temple courtyard, where the marble floor was carved with runes older than kingdoms. At its center, a silver circle glowed under the moonlight. The trial of body, spirit, and bond, intoned the priestess. If you are true, you will endure. If you are false, the goddess will cast you aside. Lucianne stepped into the circle. The air thickened, shimmering with power. Her body convulsed. Pain lanced through her veins, white-hot, searing. She gasped, collapsing to her knees. Wolfsbane. Silver. Shadows of her rejection surged through her mind, each one a blade reopening wounds that had never healed. 5 times she had been cast aside. 5 times she had begged the moon goddess to release her. And now, a 6th bond threatened to shatter her completely. Why me? Why again? Her wolf howled inside, clawing against her chest. From beyond the circle, Xandar roared. He slammed against the barrier of runes, his claws raking against invisible walls. Stop this. You'll kill her. The priestess's voice was calm. If she dies, she was not worthy. Xandar's eyes burned molten gold, half-shift consuming him. His power shook the air itself, the runes cracking under his wrath. But Lucianne's voice, weak yet unyielding, reached him. Don't. I have to do this. She staggered to her feet, her body trembling, blood streaking from her nose. Each step forward inside the circle felt like wading through fire. And then, the visions came. She saw Helena's smile, sharp as daggers. Sebastian's eyes, filled with unspoken truths. The council's scorn. The assassin's blade. Xandar's blood dripping on marble. And behind it all, the moon herself, cloaked in silver light, her voice a whisper in Lucianne's soul. 6 times you were broken. Will you stand the 7th? Lucianne screamed, her wolf bursting free in a surge of silver flame. Her body glowed, her spirit blazing like a star. The circle shattered. The runes burned to ash. She collapsed to the ground, gasping, but alive. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some fell to their knees, murmuring of miracles. Others spat curses, unwilling to accept. Xandar was at her side in an instant, cradling her against his chest. His voice was ragged, fierce. You did it, my little wolf. You showed them. Lucianne's eyes fluttered open, her lips trembling into a ghost of a smile. But deep within her, the vision still burned, the moon's words, heavy and ominous. Stand the 7th. She wasn't sure if she had just proven her strength, or sealed her fate. Episode 9, When the Bond Breaks. The palace never slept after the trial. Some whispered of miracles. Others muttered of fraud. But none could deny the truth, Lucianne had survived the moon's judgment. She was stronger than any Gamma had a right to be. And that frightened them more than if she had failed. That night, the air was thick with unrest. Guards shifted nervously at their posts. Ministers argued in hushed tones. And at the heart of it all, Xandar prowled his study like a caged beast, fury simmering beneath his skin. She bled for them, he growled, pacing. She nearly died for them. And still they doubt. Still they scheme. Lucianne sat quietly by the window, moonlight spilling over her pale face. She hadn't spoken much since the trial. Her body still ached, but it was the echo of the vision, the moon's cryptic warning, that weighed on her most. The 7th. What did it mean? The door burst open. A soldier stumbled in, blood streaking his armor. Your Majesty, rebels. Inside the palace. Before he finished, a blast rocked the walls. Shouts filled the halls. The scent of blood and wolfsbane curled in the air. Xandar was already shifting, claws and fangs flashing. Stay behind me, he ordered Lucianne. But Lucianne shook her head. Her wolf stirred, ready. Not this time. The corridors erupted in chaos. Black-cloaked figures clashed with guards, blades glinting with silver. Lucianne fought at Xandar's side, swift and fierce. For once, no one could call her weak. Her claws tore through attackers, her wolf howling with untamed fury. But amidst the blood and smoke, a trap waited. A blade, poisoned with wolfsbane, found its mark, piercing Lucianne's side. Her scream ripped through the bond. Xandar's roar shook the palace. He slaughtered the attacker in a heartbeat, but the damage was done. Lucianne staggered, clutching her wound, silver spreading like fire through her veins. And then, worse. The bond itself wavered. Xandar felt it like a knife through his soul, their connection fraying, threads unraveling in his chest. No. Stay with me, Lucy. Don't you dare leave me. Her eyes met his, pained, resolute. It's not me. It's them. They're severing it. From the shadows, Helena stepped forward, her lips curled in triumph. Behind her, the high priestess raised a blood-stained relic, its glow sickly and dark. This union was never meant to be, Helena declared. The goddess's will was twisted. Tonight, we set it right. The relic pulsed. Lucianne gasped, the bond tearing deeper. Her wolf shrieked inside her, chains snapping one by one. Xandar lunged, but the circle of runes flared, throwing him back. Stop. His voice cracked with desperation. You'll kill her. The priestess's eyes glowed cold. Then she was never yours. Lucianne's vision blurred. She saw Xandar, clawing against invisible walls, his eyes wild with fear. She saw Helena, smiling like victory was already hers. And in that moment, Lucianne made her choice. She reached inside herself, to the bond that tethered her to Xandar. And with a sob that tore her soul, she pulled. The pain was unimaginable. Like ripping her own heart free. The bond, shattered. A scream ripped from both their throats, echoing as if the moon herself wept. Lucianne collapsed, her body limp, the mate mark on her neck burning to ash. Xandar staggered, clutching his chest, the emptiness inside him more agonizing than any blade. The attackers fled, their work done. Guards rushed in too late. Helena vanished into the smoke, her laughter lingering. Xandar crawled to Lucianne, gathering her into his arms. Her pulse was faint, her breath shallow. "You broke it," he whispered, tears streaking his face. "You broke us." Her eyes fluttered open, glassy but determined. "Better me than them. I won't let them use us." And then she slipped into unconsciousness. For the first time since he became king, Xandar wept openly. The bond was gone. And with it, half his soul. Episode 10, Redemption of the Bond. The palace was silent now. Smoke drifted through shattered halls, carrying the stench of wolfsbane and blood. The chaos had ebbed, but its scars remained carved into marble and soul alike. And at the heart of it, in a chamber lit only by dying embers, Xandar knelt. Lucianne lay in his arms, her skin pale, her breath shallow. Her pulse faltered beneath his trembling fingers. But what broke him most was the hollow silence where her presence should have been. The bond was gone. A void yawned in his chest, endless and merciless. Xandar lowered his forehead to hers, his tears falling onto her cold skin. "Don't leave me. Take my strength, my soul, take everything. Just stay." But no answer came. Far beyond flesh and stone, in the quiet of her fading spirit, Lucianne wandered a void. She heard nothing but her wolf's ragged howls. She felt nothing but emptiness where Xandar's essence used to touch hers. And yet, in that nothingness, a silver glow began to bloom. The moon. Her form descended like mist and light, her voice soft yet unyielding. 6 times you were broken. And now the 7th lies before you. Will you choose despair, or will you rise? Lucianne fell to her knees, her voice hoarse. "Why me? Why always me? I begged you, no more bonds, no more pain. Why condemn me to this?" The moon's eyes shimmered with sorrow. "Because only through you could strength and love be reborn. A bond untested is fragile. A bond broken and chosen again, that is eternal." Meanwhile, in the mortal realm, Xandar roared. His power cracked the stones, his claws digging into the floor as he pressed his lips to Lucianne's hand. "Goddess, take me instead. End my reign, strip me of crown and life, just bring her back." The chamber shook. A silvery wind rushed through, carrying whispers not of man but of divine will. Lucianne stirred. In the void, the moon reached out her hand. "Your mate offers his life for yours. Will you offer yours for his?" Lucianne's heart twisted. She remembered his fury, his jealousy, his overbearing dominance. But she also remembered the way he shielded her, the way he wept when she faltered, the way he bared his soul in desperation. He was imperfect. But so was she. And perhaps that was the point. Lucianne rose, fire lighting her wolf's eyes. "I will not break again. If he is willing to bleed for me, then I will stand for him. Not because fate commands it, because I choose it." The moon smiled. "Then rise, Luna. Reclaim what was torn. Her chest ignited. In the mortal world, Xandar gasped as warmth flooded through his emptiness. Threads of silver wove into his soul, pulling, stitching, binding. Lucianne's eyes flew open, glowing like molten stars. "Xandar," she whispered. The bond blazed to life, no longer fragile, no longer imposed. Reforged by their choice, their pain, their love. Stronger than before. The king choked on a laugh, half sob, half joy. "You came back." Lucianne's lips curved faintly. "We came back." But there was no time for tender reunion. The chamber doors burst open. Helena stormed in with what remained of her conspirators, the high priestess at her side, wielding the relic. "Impossible!" Helena shrieked, her eyes wide with madness. The bond was broken. "You were nothing." Xandar rose, still holding Lucianne's hand, their new bond thrumming like thunder between them. His voice rolled with lethal authority. "You were right," he said. "We were nothing. But now we are everything." Lucianne stepped forward, her wounds knitting under the surge of divine power. Her wolf's growl filled the chamber. "Your schemes end tonight." Together, they struck. The battle was swift and merciless. The relic shattered under Lucianne's claws, its corrupted light snuffed out. Xandar's fury unleashed, cutting down rebels with the precision of a storm. Helena screamed as she was dragged before the throne, her power stripped, her lies laid bare. The priestess fell to her knees, begging the very goddess she had betrayed. But only silence answered. At last, the chamber grew quiet again, save for the sound of Lucianne and Xandar's breathing, together, in unison. Weeks later, the scars of rebellion remained, but so did hope. Lucianne walked the palace gardens, the moonlight painting her silver. Courtiers bowed their heads, no longer mocking her as the rejected Gamma, but whispering of the Luna Queen who had defied fate and prevailed. Xandar joined her, his hand finding hers with ease, their bond humming warmly between them. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. "Choosing me again, after all the pain?" Lucianne looked up at the moon, then at the man beside her. "No," she whispered. "Because this time, it was my choice. And that makes it ours." Xandar bent his forehead to hers, his voice thick with emotion. "Then let them come. The world, the crown, the trials. As long as you're with me, I'll face it all." The moon shone brighter, as if blessing them anew. For the first time, Lucianne felt no weight of rejection, no fear of loss. Only strength. Only love. Only bond. Unbroken.